playoffs for the first time since 2001.
On behalf of the Pittsburgh Penguins organization, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome to our organization from Peterborough, Jordan Stahl.
They talk about experiencing the evolution, and the evolution is happening fast.
Tonight, I'm proud to announce that your Pittsburgh Penguins will remain right here in Pittsburgh, where they belong.
The Penguins make the Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time since 2001.
On behalf of the Pittsburgh Penguins organization, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome to our organization from Peterborough, Jordan Stahl.
They talk about experiencing the evolution, and the evolution is happening fast.
Tonight, I'm proud to announce that your Pittsburgh Penguins will remain right here in Pittsburgh, where they belong.
The Penguins make the Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time since 2001.
Heading into the 2006 offseason, the feeling among Penguins fans might best be described as cautiously optimistic. While calling the 05-06 season a disappointment would be an understatement, the team's strong play over the final few months gave hope that better days were ahead.
To Malone, slap shot, score! Sidney Crosby has become the youngest player in the 89-year history of the National Hockey League to register 100 points.
Well, there was no question that the disappointment of the first season after the lockout really hit Penguin fans hard. There's no question with some of the veterans that the Penguins had acquired coming into that season. Expectations of getting back into the playoffs were very, very high. The disappointment of that, well, one of the things we learned from that team is that the chemistry in that club just wasn't there. It wasn't right to get this team into the playoffs. And
on April 20th, the team announced it would not renew the contract of Hall of Fame general manager Craig Patrick, thus ending a 16-year relationship that included 2 Stanley Cup championships. Patrick's replacement would be Nashville assistant GM Ray Shero. Considered to be a rising star among executives in professional hockey, Shero was introduced at a press conference May 25th.
I am more interested in reestablishing a winning tradition in Pittsburgh, and that means doing things right, having a vision, having a plan, and having patience. And my goal here is to reestablish that tradition. And that's just not 1 year of winning hockey. I want to build it up where it's going to be a situation where we're going to be winning consistently. And when we do make the playoffs, it's going to be making the playoffs for a long period of time.
First day I was hired, I just wanted to get a feel for what was around me, and they said, what's the first thing you're going to do? And I said, nothing. And that's what I did. I just gave it a month and got to know some of the scouts, got to know the front office people, got to know the support staff, and I thought it was important to make the right decisions moving forward and be fair to the people that were here.
there comes a time when change is needed, and that time came for the Penguins, and Ray Shero was the perfect candidate. And the reason I say that is Ray Shero was a guy who really has been training all his life to do this. You know, he played the game as a youngster. He was a player agent. He's been involved in every aspect of it in all his years in Nashville, and prior to that, really everything was building for this guy to be a National Hockey League general manager. All the things and the lessons that he learned from his father, just soaked them in hanging around the rinks when he was a kid. You knew this guy was going to be successful as a GM. It was the perfect choice for this franchise.
It's real important to me, just the whole atmosphere of the hockey team and doing things in a professional manner, from the way you travel, the way you do your business day to day, the way the locker room appears. All those little things going to make it a good organization, in my opinion. So it took a lot of hard work by a lot of good people, and the guys like Dana Heinze and Paul DeFazio and Frank Bonomo, and these guys really put a lot of time and effort into this locker room and in doing little things right off the ice, which the players I think appreciated from day one, and they noticed a change when they first came in, which we wanted them to do, but was first setting up the standard in which way we want to do things on and off the ice, and that was a very important part in my mind in terms of making things happen for the first year and then setting things up to move forward, starting looking ahead to next year.
On behalf of the Pittsburgh Penguins organization, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome to our organization from Peterborough, Jordan Stahl.
Well, when we drafted him, I can't ever say we envisioned him playing in Pittsburgh as an 18-year-old. That wasn't the plan. But like with all good things, things are subject to change.
Well, you see, this is a big kid. He's got some skills. He's put up a decent number of points. He's not scoring off the charts, but he's a guy who is going to fill out that frame, and he's going to be a big force, and a guy that you look at as saying, okay, this is a kid who looks like he's going to be a very, very good National Hockey League player. May need a little bit of development. I think all of us, well, we all debated in training camp whether this kid was going to go back and play junior hockey or whether he was going to play here. And to be honest with you, we look kind of foolish now looking back on it.
With the draft behind him, Shero turned his attention to free agency, where the Penguins look to take a much different approach than in the previous season.
I think what I wanted to try to establish is some sort of identity for a hockey team. When you looked at the Penguins, outside of the young guys, which everybody talked about, there was some fabric to the team, some substance, and to me that always goes into your role players, which I consider a very important part of your team. And whether it was in free agency, getting a Mark Eaton, who's not a big name, but when he was healthy, did a great job for us last year. Or guys like Dominic Moore in a trade, or Jarkko Ruutu, or Chris Thorburn on waivers, or Ronald Petrovicki. These guys, I think, really jumped in did a good job for us and established, either it's penalty killing or role players in the fourth line, or gave us a little different look in terms of being harder to play against. And I think that really helped our team and gave us some sort of identity.
That was one of the early focuses of Ray Shero. I mean, he came here and said, look, the bottom two lines have to be upgraded. And historically what's happened to the Penguins is the guys who've been skating on the third and fourth line, to a large degree, have been skilled players, just not quite good enough to get on the top two lines. And that's not really the way you build a winning hockey club. You've got to have the guys on the third and fourth line who are willing to embrace their role. And their role is, they're not being asked to go out and score a ton of goals. They're being asked to play good two-way hockey, chip in when they can, play a physical game. Ray Shero comes, he brings with him some new faces. You get Petrovicki after he got over his injury. Again, Max Talbot joining, I thought, was a critical addition to this Pittsburgh club. A guy like Jarkko Ruutu stirs it up, adds that element to the Penguins. Those guys I thought were very, very important to what the Penguins were able to accomplish.
Just a few minutes ago, we signed Evgeny Malkin to his first National Hockey League contract. This is a very exciting day for the Penguins organization and the Penguins fans. We commend Evgeny on his courage for coming to Pittsburgh to pursue his lifelong dream of playing in the National Hockey League.
It was a big move by a young kid to do this, and especially, the team he came from is his hometown team, and unfortunately, the way he had to leave was not probably his first priority, but that's what he wanted to do because he wanted to play the National Hockey and play for the Penguins.
Well, Malkin, from a first reaction standpoint, from seeing a player play, of all the players that I've seen for the first time in a Pittsburgh uniform or kind of training camp or whatever, was there and an equal to anybody that I have seen, including Mario and Yager and a few of the others. He certainly is an impressive individual and a great talent, and there isn't any question about that, and I expect him to be a really great star in this league for a lot of years to come.
With the key components of their team assembled, Coach Michel Therrien and his staff began camp with a focused and organized plan.
Really, to get the group together in training camp, I thought that Mike did a great job with how organized everything was. Not a second's worth of practice went to waste. Right from day one, we were working on the things that we felt would be really important heading into the season, and again, touching back on our philosophies and our beliefs. That's really where the seed was planted on where we wanted to get as a team and how much work it was going to take for us to get there.
I think, first of all, every time that you want to have a winning team, you need confidence to be a winning team. With the season that we got last year, when we came to the camp, we didn't have much expectation. We didn't know where we were standing regarding the league. One of the reasons is because we were so young. We put our players to a demanding training camp. We try to bring some discipline to this hockey team. But you got to give a lot of credit to the players. They're really buying what we try to accomplish with those guys. And we surprised a lot of people. And I think the players surprised themselves too.
Spins off that bump by Gauthier, finds Malkin down the wing. It's to Leclerc, a shot and a save made by Ash. Oh my goodness, Malkin and Leclerc just collided and Malkin's hurt.
When Evgeny Malkin dislocated his left shoulder in the first exhibition game on September 21st, many Penguins fans were left wondering what the future would hold both for the young center and the young team.
Well, I'm just happy to see him up on his skates, the way he went down.
And that is really unfortunate.
Go Pens, go Pens.
The Penguins began their season on October 5th at home against Philadelphia. The dreaded Flyers had traditionally held the upper hand against the Penguins, but this was a different team and a different year, and it was apparent to everyone.
When I watched him the morning skate of the first game, I saw that look in his eyes, and I've mentioned this to several people. I saw the look that I saw that Gretzky would give you. I saw the look that Mario would have. Those certain great players, and they just look right through you. They look right through you with their eyes because they're concentrating intent on one thing, and that's to get done what I need to get done. And when I saw that in his eyes, I said that day or something, he's going to win a scoring championship. He's going to win the scoring title this year.
But it wasn't just number 87 who would control the fate of this team. Goaltender Marc-Andre Fleury was about to embark on his first full season as a starter in the NHL, and his performance this night would set the tone for a breakout year.
It was huge because still coming out of training camp, we still didn't have that confidence. The players still didn't really believe that they could win on a consistent basis in the NHL, and it needed certain guys to do special things in certain games. And what Marc-Andre Fleury did in that opening night to make that many saves and get a shutout, it kind of in the back of players' mind, and even as a media member, you start thinking, geez, maybe we can do something here. Maybe Fleury is the guy. Maybe he's the guy that's going to take us to the promised land.
Training camp didn't go well for him, but he was able to shake that off and then head into the season. And you look at what he did against opening night against Philadelphia there, and I think that was a big part of his development as a player, really, and I think that gave him the confidence heading forward where if he had a bad game, if he gave up a bad goal, he knew he was able to rebound from that, and part of that is maturity and part of it's confidence, but it was nice to see that happen.
I thought that start was probably a little better than what a lot of people thought was going to happen, because again, you're talking about so many unknown factors. Malkin wasn't yet in the lineup. Fleury had not had a good camp. Jordan Staal. What are the Penguins going to get out of him? You didn't know yet. Guys like Petrovicki were hurt. You didn't know how Ekman was going to fit in. So there were still so many questions flying around. And for the Penguins to get off to that kind of a start was a big boost. Because I'll tell you, the other thing was, Sid played very well early on, but he got blanked in a number of those early games. So the Penguins weren't simply getting by on the brilliance of Sidney Crosby in the early stages of the season.
There's two things as an athlete. You can get very quickly, but you can lose very quickly, and that's confidence and momentum. And that's something that this team had all year. They had confidence and the momentum.
It was that combination of confidence and momentum that carried the Penguins to a 7-3 start. That stretch included the long-awaited debut of Yevgeny Malkin. Fully recovered from a shoulder injury sustained in the preseason, the Russian phenom quickly showed he was a force to be reckoned with, scoring a goal in each of his first 6 games, including an overtime winner in Los Angeles.
Gonchar is shot, stop, rebound, score! Evgeny Malkin wins it for the Penguins in overtime. The second goal of the game for Malkin.
Lets it go around the near side of Crosby, who cuts in against Kozlov.
The quick of Malkin, a shot, he scores! Evgeny Malkin buries it underneath the pads of Mike Dunham after Crosby.
There's certain times when you can watch a guy, and in the first 2 or 3 minutes you can go, wow, this guy's unbelievable. When I saw Sidney Crosby the first time, I said that. And when I saw Evgeny Malkin the first time, I said, there's something special about this kid. And it was the way, for a big man at 6'3", the way he could skate, the way he shot the puck, the way he passed the puck. You're like, there's something different about this guy. There's something special about him.
When he finally arrives here and you see the package of skills that he has right from day one, his ability to beat people one-on-one was incredible to watch at his age. And so you couldn't wait to see what he would do on the NHL stage. And boy, I tell you what, he didn't waste any time showing us, because a goal in each of his first 6 games was right out of the storybook.
Here's Malkin shooting, he scores! Evgeny Malkin has done it, 6 goals in 6 games.
He's going to turn around, headman the puck to Malkin, 1-on-2, he cuts around a man, moves in a goal. What a goal by Malkin as he flips it on the backhand, and the Pittsburgh Penguins have a 4-2 lead. Oh, scratch my back with a hacksaw, Evgeny Malkin.
It was great because he wanted to play in the league and to see him have such great success as a 20-year-old, and it bodes well for our future, and says a lot about Evgeny making this kind of sacrifice to come over and over the situation he was in back home.
These guys on this team, the younger guys and the veterans themselves, reached out to Evgeny Malkin to make him feel a part of it. But it was very exciting to see this kid finally arrive here. There's such a sense of anticipation about this kid because, again, the build-up, the talk of him, and then when he finally gets here and you see him standing along Sidney Crosby on the ice, you're envisioning. I think every fan at that point looked at those two guys and said, this could be the core of what this team is going to be able to accomplish in the future, and they just couldn't wait for the story to unfold.
Oh, shave my face with a rusty razor. Malkin from Crosby.
Malkin wasn't the only rookie turning heads in Pittsburgh. An 18-year-old named Jordan Staal wrote himself into the record books by scoring his first 3 career goals shorthanded. At the onset of the season, most felt that Staal and rookie defenseman Christopher Letang would be sent back to junior hockey after a 9-game stint with the Penguins. Although Letang was eventually sent back to juniors, Staal had other plans for his immediate future.
Well, I can tell you that there was a plan in place with Jordan as far as how we were going to bring him along, and we decided that early on we were going to make him fight for everything he got. And to Jordan's credit, I mean, he just did everything that was asked of him, and he worked and he battled, and he proved by the second half of the season that he was a legitimate full-time NHL contributor. He really impressed us with his maturity on and off the ice.
Here's the ball on the dust. Here's Staal shooting. He scores! Jordan Staal with his first National Hockey League goal.
And on and off the ice, he's really fitting in. He's stepping up his game, and he finished up the year. And next thing you know, he's playing for us. And great story.
He just kept getting better, each day better, and better, to the point when it came to make a decision, you couldn't send him back.
And more the season went on, and the confidence was there. He understood the game really well, and he was a huge part for us to make the playoff. And we gave more responsibility on the defensive roles. Even if he scored 29 goals, he scored 26 goals the year before in junior hockey, and that was a big surprise for us.
It's just one of those rare breeds, despite the fact that he's not as flashy as the other two, Malkin and Sidney Crosby, but he brings to the table so much more maturity from a kid that's 18 years of age, as though he's been playing in the league. He makes the right decisions. He's smart with the puck. He's been well trained and well coached, and he was a very, very impressive young man to me. More than the flamboyancy that you see in a lot of players come in from an offensive standpoint. And I really think, just my gut feeling is that Jordan Staal might become the best defensive center in the National Hockey League with offensive skills. It reminds me a lot of a Rod Brindamore, but twice as big. That ought to scare some people.
After a successful October, the Penguins suffered their first setback in early November when defenseman Mark Eaton was lost to a wrist injury in San Jose. The team now needed to find a solution while entering into the heart of the regular season.
And it was kind of symbolic because Mark Eaton was one of those guys who had been around the National Hockey League, has a lower profile, a guy Ray Shero really felt confident about. He knew about Mark Eaton, he knew what he could bring to a hockey club. And when he went down, there's no question, it hurt the Penguins, and then some of those questions arise. And that's where you really learn about a hockey club. Every team has injuries, and that's why you hear coaches say, and it tends to sound like a cliche all the time, but you need everybody on your club. And when Mark Eaton went down, the Penguins had to work through some of the difficulties that meant for them.
That vision is ingrained in my mind. When I saw Mark Eaton go down, and you knew he was in a lot of pain, and Chichu all right on top of him. The first thing you see is number 87 of all guys, right? Sidney Crosby's in there sticking up for his teammate, and Sidney Crosby, obviously not known as a fighter, he didn't care. He was going to get in there and defend his teammate, who he knew was hit from behind, that he was in a lot of pain, and that just goes to show you that these guys were like a family, that they were going to stick up for each other.
Taken there by Nesany. Oh my goodness, the Jovanovski plaster in. Here comes Orpik. He's coming right in. This Penguin team is going to stick together, folks. And
they play for one another, and that's where the key difference. They are playing for one another, and that's what you want. But winning breeds that, and that's what makes it all happen.
That you really were like a family. You really cared for each other, and I don't mind using the word, you actually love each other. You're like brothers, and you're willing to do anything to help the guy sitting next to you win a hockey game.
The chemistry of this team is one thing one theme that you just keep coming back to. This particular hockey club, and I really think it all started at West Point. I mean, this was an exercise that, although other NHL teams had done this before, the Penguins had never done it before. And when you talk to the guys in the room later on about what they took from that, every one of those guys felt it was a worthwhile experience, and they really felt that they learned something about the guy next to them, and that was something they were going to be able to draw on as the season went on. And I don't think you can separate that experience from the great chemistry that this team exhibited over the course of the season.
I think that was a huge, had a huge impact on our team, and you know, as a team building exercise. But just what it did for our team and how they were able to draw on that all season long was huge. You know, I wish that people could kind of see within the dressing room after the game and see how the guys are joking around with each other and laughing it up after a big win, and you know, how everybody appreciates each other's role. You know, whether it's Sidney Crosby or Evgeny Malkin or Jordan Staal, or you know, it could be Ruutu, it could be Malone, it could be Armstrong. It doesn't matter who it is or what they're doing. Everybody appreciates what everybody else is bringing to the table, and I think that's what makes our group such a tight family, is you know, the chemistry inside the locker room, and that's one thing I wish that people could see, is take a glimpse within our locker room.
The defenseman on the play, and Paul Ranger, and he just could not make the centering pass click. And now a steal by the Penguins. Crosby to the goal, a shot, he scores! Sidney Crosby just absolutely undressed the defenseman, and once again on one knee pulls the trigger to beat Holmquist and give the Penguins a 1-0 lead. Absolutely.
The thing that continues to impress us all about Sidney Crosby is that this kid doesn't take a shift off. He never has, not from the start of his National Hockey League career, not from his play in juniors, and even from before that. None of us saw him playing then, and we don't need to have seen him back in those years to tell you that that's what this kid is all about. He is about every night giving everything he has for his hockey team to win a game, and that's why, you know, you have such confidence that this kid is going to be everything that people have said that he's going to be. He has that confidence in himself, and to see him in a regular season game in October, November, February, the setting doesn't matter. You drop the puck, Sidney Crosby's ready to play.
Took away the inside. Here comes Recchi swinging around Seabrook, drops it off. Sidney Crosby, a shot! Save made by Howie Boland. Crosby with it again, Kukin on him. Sid trying to turn off that check, he does. Now the puck gets away from him to Ruutu. Crosby wins that battle. Crosby coming to the goal, turning, spinorama, back to the forehand, a shot block. Gets it backhander, saved by Howie Boland.
He's just day in, day out, shift in, shift out, whether it's in practice, whether it's in a game. You know, each and every repetition that you do in practice, whether it's just a little shooting drill, he's skating as hard as he can.
Sidney Crosby also realized he had to play his game, and his game was emotional. It was a passionate game, and sometimes it was going to be flare-ups because of all that emotion and passion. And so there were times when Sid would lose his cool, but that was okay. You don't want to take that away from Sidney Crosby, because the good that's going to come out of that heavily outweighs any bad.
But what we see from Sidney Crosby, especially in his sophomore season in the National Hockey League, is, again, he funnels the emotion that he feels in those moments into the game. And when you start doing those kinds of things to Sidney Crosby, I think it's well established already that you're going to pay a price, and you're going to pay a price on the scoreboard, and that's where he wants the opponents to pay a price, and that's what's happened in the past season.
Sidney Crosby ties the game with 15.3 seconds to go.
Malkin takes over. Quick puck move by the Penguins. Here's Ryan Whitney. Cross ice for Crosby. Back at John. He scores! Sidney Crosby makes it 2-1.
The puck to Recchi and on to center to Crosby, who darts in and out. Zigzagging to the Canadians, in through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Shoots a puck and scores! It's Crosby beating everybody, and the Penguins have a 1-0 lead. How can I get a witness? What a goal by number 87. Deals it to center. Crosby turns and comes right back in. Number 87 of the Penguins going between people. Shoots, scores! Sidney Crosby does it all. Oh, slap me, silly Sidney. The Penguins have tied it at 2.
best part about Sidney Crosby is when he actually lets his guard down and he's not in front of a camera and he's just himself, and you realize, oh my God, this kid's 19 years old, that he laughs at ridiculous things, and that you talk about girls and he's kind of giggling like he's in high school, and he almost could be in high school. So that to me is the reality of Sidney Crosby, that he is still a 19-year-old kid, but he's living a very adult life.
I feel bad for that one. What about you?
To come back within and say within yourself, I'm going to take this team somewhere and make it happen, and I'm going to maybe win a scoring championship and do that. So those accomplishments are just almost impossible to imagine.
I mean, the way he practiced, the way he conducted himself, the professionalism he showed. I mean, for us, we're pretty blessed as a franchise to have a kid like this, a superstar in the National Hockey League, with his work ethic, and his first goal is always about the team and the team making the playoffs last year, and that was what was important to him. And he's done a great job.
Over to Whitney of the Penguins, top of the circle. Crosby between the circles to Recchi, can't get it to him. Crosby on his knees, backhand shot, he scores! He falls down and beats goaltender Telquist like a rented mule.
In a big rebound, the Penguins gonna have a chance here. Mark Recchi and Sidney Crosby. Recchi down the wing to Crosby in front, he scores! What a goal by Sidney Crosby! Absolutely off the charts.
Frankly, folks, that's the way it works in this game. There are guys that can break the bank and guys that can't. He can break the bank, so you need to use him in situations where you can break the bank, and that's why I think his minutes will actually increase along the way. How much faith does Michael Therrien have in him? Well, made him assistant captain 1 year, makes him the captain the next, and that tells me he's planning on using Sidney Crosby a whole lot in his scope of game plan and when he wants to use him.
On December 13th, Crosby recorded a goal and 5 assists against the Flyers to become the NHL's leading scorer. He never looked back and would win his first Art Ross Trophy at the age of 19, becoming the youngest player in the history of professional sports to win a scoring title.
And another point for Sidney Crosby. Make it 6 now for the Wizard.
One thing I learned about Sidney is to never doubt anything. And it's hard to imagine what he can accomplish. What he has accomplished already, I think, is it's phenomenal. And you really have to deserve success, and one person that really deserves success is Sidney Crosby.
Success was a fickle mistress for the Penguins in November. Scrambling to regain their chemistry after the injury to Eden, the Penguins went on a 5-8-5 skid through mid-December.
Jaromir Jagr got the puck on a lucky bounce.
Although the team was falling in the standings, the players were still looking to rise to the occasion.
I remember talking to the players in the room when we were going through that tough time, and the thing that I remember the most was they realized what they were doing wrong, and they knew what they had to do right, and they didn't let it get away from them. Even when we took a small step backwards, we never took 3, 4, 5 steps backwards. We're always able to recover and never really let things unravel.
Well, during the course of the season, you're going some good stretch, and you're going sometimes it's tougher. It's tougher to get. You don't get the breaks, you don't get the calls, you don't get those things, and players get tired, and with all the traveling, and so it's up and down.
The Penguins skated into Washington on December 11th looking for a spark to break out of their up and down ways. What they found would inspire them the rest of the season.
As December wore on, the Penguins needed to turn around. Their power play gets going. The game that really crystallized a lot of this for me was the game in Washington. The Penguins got down 4-0, 5 minutes into the second period.
Score from between the circles. Chris Beach, the former Penguin, gets the goal.
And the Penguins had nothing going for them. They had no jump on this night. They were not making good decisions.
And the Capitals after it. It caroms all the way to the Penguins' end. Gordon now putting it in front of Mike, and he scores! And the Capitals get it.
It's fitting that Max Talbot is the guy who gets the goal to make it 4-1. And before you know it, it's 4-2, it's 4-3. And now the Penguins are thinking, hey, you know, we can win this game.
Now out to Talbot, shoots and scores! Max Talbot gets the goal, and the Penguins are finally on the board.
There was no panic in that game. And most young teams down 4-0 national TV would majorly push the panic button. And maybe it was 8 or 10-0. But they decided, let's just get one. If we get one, we'll get two. And they just calmly went about business and got themselves back in that hockey game.
The Penguins have put it in. It's Christensen who gets the goal. Face-off win by Crosby to Malkin on the near boards. Back in between the circles. Crosby shoots and scores! Sidney Crosby makes it 4-3 as he shoots it.
You're down 4 goals in the National Hockey League, even in today's game. It's over 99% of the time. It wasn't over this night because the Penguins just got going. It really symbolized a lot of the fans came to love about this team, is that they didn't quit.
In front for Crosby. Balls down. Malkin got the goal. He put it in. Evgeny Malkin fires it home. And the Penguins make it 4-4. Oh, let's go on Moose on a Harley. Evgeny Malkin.
I think our team really matured that game, and it started to believe that no matter what the deficit was, that they had the horses to win any game. Down 4, down 5, it didn't matter. We have Sid, we have guys that can put the puck in the net. We have a goaltender that can make the big save when he has to.
Third shooter for the Penguins is Evgeny Malkin. He doesn't waste any time. He picks the puck up. The left-handed shooter cuts in on Kolzig. Right down the alley comes and fires it in over his body as he went down, and Malkin lifted it on the forehand. And the Penguins get a second goal, and now the Capitals must score here to keep the shootout going.
So bad in shootouts all through the previous season and for the early portion of this season. And that night in Washington, they got it to a shootout and they won the thing. And I think, you know, you could see the look on the faces of those players after that game, and they said, hey, this is something significant. And maybe we've learned something about ourselves tonight as well.
You have to look at that as a turning point in the season, just because I think heading further into the season, we really came back from a lot of games, and that was the first game where we really proved that hey, you know, if we never give up, if we keep fighting, then we're always in these things.
One of the players who was a spark plug in that game was checking line center Max Talbot, demoted to Wilkes-Barre at the end of training camp, but called up early in the season. Talbot wasted no time making his presence felt in the NHL.
I still remember vividly what we said to him, and just said you had to be better. And you know, you've got to make a difference when you're on the ice. And I thought his camp was okay, but he was a guy that did not need waivers. You know, he played a bit the year before, and you know, I was looking for more, and I wanted him to be, you know, really find a niche for himself. And you know, he's always been a guy that's had to work on his face-offs. We told him, you've got to be a 45, 50, 55% guy eventually to have a chance in this league to be a checker and role player, penalty killer. And you know, he's one of those guys. He just looked at us. He didn't pout at all. He just said, I won't let you down. I'll be back. And I looked at Mike Terry, and he said, he'll be back.
They brought him back up here. And what does he do for them? Well, again, he's an agitator. You know, he's a guy who really gets in the face of opponents, and the Penguins needed that element. He's a guy who can chip in because he does have the skills, and he is a terrific penalty killer. And that's really where he made his mark on this hockey club, I think, is as a penalty killer.
Back up top again, Monador fires. It never got through. Great block there. It was Talbot, I think it went down. Another shot, and he is really hurting right now. Walmeister with it. He is hurting right now, Talbot. He's doing everything he can. Look out. Stumble with a shot. It never got through. Penguins are blocking shots beautifully. Talbot with a gutsy play to try to clear. He couldn't get it out. Monador held it in. 38 seconds to go on the penalty. Penguins would love to get the puck here. Here's Monador firing and hit a Panther. Cleared by Talbot. Look at him hobbling back to the bench. What a shift from Maxime Talbot. What a warrior.
I'm a huge Max Talbot fan. I really am. And I love his heart. I love his passion. He's not the most skilled guy in the league, but you can't question his heart and how bad he wants to win. And that's contagious.
Wide open cage, too. Langenbrunner fires one. Blocked by Talbot. Gets up. Sweeps it back to center. Feeling the pain of that block. He'll go back to the bench. Talbot's been doing a lot of that lately.
If it was a block shot, if it was a face-off, whatever he had to do, he'd throw his face in front of a shot if he had to, if he knew it'd help him win a hockey game. And he is the heart and soul of this hockey team, I believe that.
Centered it, and it came right to Maxime Talbot, who takes it the other way short. And now the Penguins go on the offense, killing a penalty. Talbot shoots and scores! Maxime Talbot drives to the goal. And he turns the tables on the Hawks. A shorthanded goal for the Penguins makes it 2-1.
And he's one of these kids, don't tell me I can't play in this league. And when you've got that attitude, you've already got a head start on a lot of guys, even guys with a lot more talent.
You know, we don't always measure wins and losses. We always are trying to improve heading into the next game, and we try to evaluate fairly on how we played, because quite often you're going to win games where you don't deserve to, and lose games where you maybe deserve to win. So, our belief is that every game you got to try to get better, and I think that if you look at the course of the season as a team, we did improve.
But the improvement didn't immediately show on the ice. After the comeback in Washington, the Penguins finished December with a 3-4-1 record. Coming into January, the Penguins were still only one game over 500 and out of playoff contention. But the team continued to work hard, and the results began to turn in their favor.
Good play by Malkin. His pass to center. Recchi leaves the puck on the right side for Crosby, going towards the net. Shoots, scores! Sidney Crosby with a rich shot, and the Penguins take a 1-0 lead. Crosby in the corner to Recchi. He comes out, he's got a chance, and he fires it in! Mark Recchi from the right wing circle, and the wrecking ball makes it 3-1 Penguins.
I just think it was a process that developed step by step by step, of players getting experience in the league and the opportunity to get better, and I think that's what really kind of magnified it.
Sidney Crosby continued his torrid pace, and by the All-Star break, he had led the team into a tie for 8th place with a 5-2-2 mark in January, and found himself in his first All-Star game. Most analysts felt that with hard work and a little luck, the Penguins could find themselves fighting for the 8th playoff spot. What happened next would amaze both experts and fans alike. With their fathers watching, the Penguins permanently forged their identities and announced to everyone in the NHL that they had arrived.
3 and the Pens have scored. There it is, Mark Recchi, his 500th National Hockey League goal.
To go into Dallas, and I know Dallas wanted to win badly that night. We had to fight for every square inch on that ice, and we ended up battling out a win, and then going into Phoenix the next night and pulling out another win. That was a big moment in the season for me. Not just because we were able to win for our fathers and have the fathers on the trip, but we were able to go into a team like Dallas's building when they desperately needed a win, and we were able to pull out a win.
The Penguins came off of that trip. They had a lot of momentum. There was a lot of good feeling among the players about what they had accomplished and about the great time they'd had with their fathers being on the trip, and it really gave them a lot of impetus to go on this incredible streak that they were headed for.
Control with 26 seconds to go on the penalty. Willett takes a command of the puck. Willett in front. Whitney a shot. He scores! Ryan Whitney buries it, and the Penguins take a 3-0 lead.
Played around behind the goal. Armstrong takes the pass. Talbot in front. Here's Christensen. He shoots and scores! Eric Christensen from Talbot, and the Penguins lead it 4-2. Oh, you ain't nothing but a hound dog. Eric Christensen.
Zubras handed it right to Evgeny Malkin. Can he get it out? He does. And Jordan Stahl's got an empty net. Stahl with Willett open on the right side. Stahl looks at the net. He shoots. He scores! Jordan Stahl buries it into an empty net this time. He made sure. And the Penguins take the 2-0 lead with 37.3 seconds to go. This will make Ray Shero very happy as the general manager of the Penguins sees his new team beat the team he was assistant general manager of by a score of 4-1. This Penguin team has come a long way in a very fast period of time this year.
Looking back at that game, I think at the time Nashville had lost 2 or 3 in a row, and they were in a little bit of a slide for a team that was first in the league at the time. But we knew that they were going to be desperate. Detroit was right on their heels, and Anaheim and San Jose, these teams that were trying to catch them from behind. And obviously Nashville is a great team looking for first place. And so we knew that if we weren't desperate, then it would be an embarrassing game for us.
And then you look at the games that we won, it wasn't always Sidney Crosby or Evgeny Malkin. A lot of times it was Eric Christensen or Colby Armstrong or Ryan Whitney. It was somebody that you really wouldn't expect to step up and win you a hockey game. Or Marc-Andre Fleury just having an unbelievable game to kind of get us out of that little bit of funk we're in and get things back rolling again.
Off the hop, they center one. Oh, what a save! Fleury just made on the doorstep. Really chemically sound right now. There's the big hit by Colby Armstrong on Saku Koivu.
You remember that game against Montreal? I mean, he just plants Saku Koivu. And this isn't just a player he hit. This is the captain of the Montreal Canadiens he hit. And Sheldon Surrey, who's their best defenseman, goes crazy afterwards, gets tossed out of the game. Sergei Gonchar scores 2 power play goals later. That's the textbook example of what Colby Armstrong can get. A legal hit, a big hit, it energized his club. The Penguins go in the power play, they score 2 goals, they win the hockey game.
I'm a true believer in Colby Armstrong. I like the way that kid play, and he's a big factor, as far as I'm concerned, to the success of other players could have. And we sit down with him. He put sometimes too much pressure on himself, especially early last year in the season when he was playing with Sidney. And every time you play with a player like Sidney Crosby, you felt some pressure to produce offensively. I saw some confidence and Colby went down a little bit, so that's why we sit down and we identify his role, and this is where we see him, and he felt more comfortable in the role that we were giving to him.
We needed him to be a guy who was going to play physical and battle and compete hard and get to the front of the net and score some dirty goals.
Colby Armstrong embraced it because you know what? He knew that he could contribute to this team as a penalty killer, which he's done very consistently, and he continued to just throw huge hits so many times during the season. And that is an element. You know, Gary Roberts brought that element when he came to Pittsburgh, but prior to Roberts being here, the one forward you could count on to take a big chunk of somebody on the forecheck was Colby Armstrong.
I think Colby is the glue of this team. He's such a character guy, and what's really neat is his relationship with Sidney Crosby. I think he balances Sid. He's his roommate on the road, and I don't think he lets Sid get away with anything. And I think Sid likes that because it keeps him grounded. So anytime that Sid might get an accolade or a big pat on the back or win Player of the Month or something like that, Colby Armstrong is the one that brings him right down very quickly, and not in a disrespectful way, because he does respect Sidney Crosby very much, but he's got that fine balance with Sidney that I think Sidney likes to be kind of rubbed a little bit the wrong way to make him feel like one of the boys.
He's just a competitor. He's a battler. He's a character guy, and you know, when he plays the way that he did for us, especially the last half of the year, he's a great asset for our team and a guy that's very difficult for other teams to play against.
Behind the net to Ouellette, who's standing right in the slot.
Here are the pins. Ouellette cruising back towards the net, comes in tight. He shoots and scores! Michel Ouellette puts it between the legs. The goaltender, Niittymaki, and the Penguins have tied it at 2.
He finds Sid below the goal line. He spins away from Dale Morrison. Put it on! And he shoots and scores! Round the ball, buries it.
Going into games, you had that confidence, and you know, when you were down a goal going to the third period or tied in the third period, you always felt that something was going to happen for us in a good way. And we had lots of things where pucks were rolling in, you know, underneath the goalie's legs, or we're winning the shootouts, and you know, Fleury's making great saves in overtime. We're winning overtime with big goals, and but that's a huge streak for us that really put us in a playoff spot, and you know, gave our team a lot of confidence in the second half of the year.
The Penguins were riding a 12-game point streak heading into Toronto on February 10th. The Maple Leafs were also in the playoff race, and it was a hockey night in Canada when these two teams squared off.
And they hold on to it, they will. Stahl onto the Leafs, in, drop pass for Ouellette. Back to Stahl, go to the net. He shoots and scores! Jordan Stahl picks the pocket of goaltender Ray Croft, and the Penguins lead 1-0. What a shot by Stahl. And Alain Nasreddine on the Malkin comes with good speed into the Leafs end. Drop it back to Stahl. He's got a chance. Wrist shot. He scores! Jordan Stahl again. Oh, get that dog off my lawn. Jordan Stahl with a powerful wrister over the left glove hand of goaltender Ray Croft, and the Penguins have a 2-0 lead.
You're playing in Toronto, and it's hockey night in Canada, and Toronto is obviously quite the hockey market. And there was quite a buzz about Jordan at that time because he had competed at a level that nobody really expected, and he was doing things that nobody thought he would. So there was now some attention on him where there wasn't before. And to go in and being a guy that comes from Ontario and to beat Toronto, score the game-winning goal for your overtime winner as your hat-trick goal on Hockey Night in Canada is something that obviously he's going to be able to take with him for a very long time.
Looking for the puck of the Penguins. Can they swing it free? And they will. Malkin comes hurriedly up the right side. Cavalier has nothing left in the tank. They come back. Malkin drop past the Stahl. Here he turns around a man. Looks, shoots, scores! Jordan Stahl gets the hat trick. And the Pittsburgh Penguins win it in overtime, 6-5. And ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has just left the building. There's another rookie with a hat trick.
It seemed the Penguins could do no wrong, and for over a month, they couldn't.
Third power play chance for the Pens. Crosby shoots and scores. The Penguins make it 4-1, and Sid gets on the board for the first time in 9 games.
Doesn't mind that Christensen deal. Let's see what he's got.
Russian against Russian. Malkin against Hobby Bolin. Score! Evgeny Malkin wins it for the Penguins in this shootout, and this place goes absolutely ballistic. The Penguins find a way to do it again. They're now
When the dust finally settled, the Penguins had gone 14-0-2 from January 13th to February 18th, the second longest such streak in team history. The team had risen to 5th place in the conference, and they were just 1 win behind the division-leading New Jersey Devils. So most were surprised when word came down that head coach Michel Therrien had called out goaltender Marc-Andre Fleury and challenged his performance.
You understand Marc-Andre is a young goalie, and he's a younger goalie to be number 1 going in the NHL. And he's got a lot of potential. He's a great person, and we all care about him. But sometimes I care about my children, and when they don't do stuff right, I gotta let them know. But it doesn't mean that I don't care them. You do things for a purpose. And thing was going well for us. And I think we were like about 14 and 15 games in a row, having lost a game. And sometimes with a young team and with young players, that you start losing your focus. Why did you get success? So, and sometimes you gotta snap the finger, and to make sure that they're gonna get back to their concentration, and to make sure that yes, we're satisfied, but the biggest work has to come.
General Manager Ray Shero was also aware of what was yet to come for his team. In response, he made 2 key moves at the trade deadline, acquiring forwards George Laraque from Phoenix and Gary Roberts from Florida.
No one ever said from our team that we needed more toughness or something like that, but it was just, to me, when we have a chance to get a guy like Gary Roberts for what he could bring both on and off the ice, the manner in which he plays the game, the preparation, the physical aspect of it, to me, was something I really wanted to try to add. And getting a guy like George Laraque, who is, arguably the toughest guy in the league, really gave our team a little more confidence physically. And I had 1 or 2 players say to that, a month afterward, after the trade deadline, that, geez, a lot of this stuff has stopped, and they didn't have to deal with it anymore.
You hear people talk about warriors in hockey, and that's just the word that comes back to me every time you see Gary Roberts and you see the way he approaches not only the game, not only the season, but the off-season. When they got him in a Pittsburgh sweater and he started dishing out some of those checks on the forecheck, every guy on that bench was soaking up a big lesson about what it takes to win in the National Hockey League, and you just can't put a price on the value of the kind of lessons they learn from watching Gary Roberts on the ice, and then watching him in the weight room, and just seeing the way he carries himself and the way he prepares himself. And now those guys are dying to train with him in the summer, and probably dying while they're training with him because he's so hard to train with.
And that confidence that he brought to our team took us to another level that transcended right from Sidney Crosby right down to Jarkko Ruutu. It didn't matter who you were playing with or what line you were on. You became a better hockey player when Gary Roberts got here.
Crosby was sitting there with his gloves off. The only thing he did through this entire episode was keep an eye on Marty Biron. That's all he watched is Biron, just stared down at him.
Well, Crosby's been in a goal-scoring slump, but he has a couple of shootout winners during the last stretch. Let's see what he does here. He scores!
By the time they played that 8th game against the Flyers, that was not 2 points that were absolutely critical for the Pittsburgh Penguins, but the fans were dying to see the Penguins win that game, and so they could say they went 8-0, because hey, if there's one team that symbolizes how the Penguins have struggled over the years, in the non-Stanley Cup years, it's the Philadelphia Flyers and the way that they just beat the Penguins up year after year after year. And to have a season where it all comes together so nicely for the Penguins, have that be the same season where they beat the Flyers every way you can imagine. They beat them physically, they beat them on the scoreboard. They had a couple of games where they beat them soundly on the scoreboard. It was very gratifying for the fans for sure.
I think if you're a fan that goes back 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, you realize the importance of it. And you remember those games. It's all those bad memories kind of get rehashed. And you remember how many times the Flyers took our nose and rubbed it right into the you-know-what. And they beat us up. They beat us bad. And there were times when we'd have 2-goal leads, 3-goal leads late in hockey games, and they'd always come back and beat us. So for us to go 8-0 against a cross-state rival like the Flyers, the hated Flyers, I don't know if it gets any better than that, really. I don't know if it'll ever be done again to go 8-0 against a team like the Flyers, who have a lot of tradition and a lot of pride.
Upshaw against Fleury. To the backhand, trying to go high, and Fleury says no.
From a former Penguin that had to go through and endure all those years of being abused by the Flyers, I wanted to take the headset off and just jump up and down and scream. I was so happy that we were able to beat them in our barn, and more importantly, beat them in their barn the way we did. I think we beat them 8-2 one time. It brought so much pride and so much joy to me as a former Penguin.
Penguins fans already had much to cheer for during the course of the season. But on March 13, 2007, Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell delivered the news that Penguins fans had been waiting to hear for almost a decade.
Just about 5 minutes ago, we all parties concerned, signed a term sheet which will guarantee that the Pittsburgh Penguins will stay put in Pittsburgh for the next 30 years and play their games in a new state-of-the-art arena.
For me, the backdrop of this season was what made it one of the things that made it so very special. Not only did you have this incredible nucleus of young talent with all this promise and some very, very special players, but you play this season out against a backdrop in which the fans aren't sure whether this team's even going to be here. And when you put it against that backdrop, I think you really start to appreciate what happened here in Pittsburgh this season. And it really crystallized for me the night when the Penguins beat the Buffalo Sabres here at home, and a night that started off with Mario, on the ice to inform the fans that the arena deal was done, the Penguins weren't going anywhere.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I do have an announcement to make. First of all, I'd like to thank all of our fans here tonight and all of our fans who have supported this franchise over the last 40 years. Thank you very much. Tonight, I'm proud to announce that your Pittsburgh Penguins will remain right here in Pittsburgh, where they belong. Thank you, Pittsburgh. Have a great night.
There was a palpable sense of joy in this building that I had not seen in 15 years.
You can't say enough about the fans. And there were so many times during this past season that I can remember actually getting goosebumps, and I'm leaning over to Mikey and going, man, I'm emotional right now. I was getting choked up doing some games because the fans were that intense and that loud.
It's a new generation, and it's a new feeling, I think, that you have here. They're going to grow with this team, too. There's a lot of young kids, and I think that's what stands out to me more than anything else. We've got a whole new generation of young kids that really want to become Penguin fans.
It it just shows you what kind of character fans we have and passionate hockey fans we have. Even though there was all these distractions about are we staying, are we going, they never gave up the ship. They never gave up the faith, and they kept believing in the team. And I know the players really did appreciate that.
With the future of the team secured, the Penguins turned their eyes towards the playoffs. They finished the regular season with 105 points, the second highest total in team history, and earned the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. The Penguins were headed into the postseason for the first time since 2001, and awaiting them were the Ottawa Senators.
We knew that they were a great team, and they didn't have a lot of holes. They had a great defense, I think a very underestimated defense, and they were difficult to play against. They were difficult even the games that we scored goals against them, and we were able to beat them. We had to fight for every scoring opportunity that we got against them. So we knew heading into the playoffs that we were going to have to be at our absolute best, and obviously we knew that we were lacking a little bit in the experience factor, and our guys came out and we battled hard every one of those games. Obviously nerves played a big part in it. I think if you look back at the experience part of it, Ottawa was able to elevate their game to a new level, and we really weren't able to elevate ours, and I think that's something that we'll be better for in the future.
I remember first time as an NHL player making the playoffs, and the excitement and the emotion that I had. It was overwhelming for me, and I'm sure it was the same for these young players. I was a little bit older than I was about 28, 29 years old when I first made the playoffs, and to be 20, 21, 22, which most of these guys are, to go through the playoffs the way they did, it's not that shocking that we kind of stubbed our toe in the first round, the first time making the playoffs for this group.
The wild card about the Penguins in the playoffs that everybody kept bringing up was, hey, most of this team has never played a single Stanley Cup playoff game. How are they going to react? And all the great things that we'd seen this team react to and all the poise and character and drive that they had shown during the season, we all knew that it wasn't going to quite prepare them for what the Stanley Cup playoffs were about, that they have to go through that. And hey, you see it all the time in the National Hockey League. Teams that become champions don't become champions overnight. Almost without fail, they've got to get to the playoffs and go through some failure, and sometimes some really some failure that really gnaws at you. Sometimes when you think you have a team that can do something special and you lose. And the Penguins, they learned a lot about themselves in the playoffs. They learned that, playoff hockey is different than regular season hockey. It means blocking a shot on every shift, not just at the end of the game when you're trying to protect a one-goal lead. It means bringing the intensity that you're able to muster every single shift, every night. These are the lessons that they had to learn. And it was painful to watch them go through those first 2 games in Ottawa, especially on opening night, when there's still that combination of nerves and inexperience, kind of coming out and the Penguins losing a game, and then didn't play all that well, but well enough in the third period of Game 2 to come back and tie that series. But then they come home and, hey, again, maybe the Penguins thought, okay, now we know what the playoffs are about. We're ready to go. We're home. We have a couple of games. It doesn't work that way. You've got to bring it every single shift. And, again, the lessons they learned in the postseason are going to be very, very valuable for them. And some people would argue, you can't get to the ultimate goal without learning those lessons the hard way. And I think the Penguins did learn them the hard way against the Senators.
Having taken the medicine we had to take from what I consider a very, very good team that was really clicking on all cylinders, and I know the second half of the year they had the best record in the entire National Hockey League, so we knew going in with that matchup was going to be real tough. And from game 1 to the drop of the puck, we knew we were in for something. And we battled back and showed resiliency, which was great. And but I'm hoping, whether it's from our younger players, the older players, the coaching staff, management, we see and grow from that experience, because that was the whole idea about having some success during the regular season, to make the playoffs and experience that, and experience the letdown, experience the crowds, to experience the travel and the press. It's all part of the growing process, and at least that's what I want to believe, because that's the way it's supposed to be.
You learn from adversity. And I remember last year went to adversity and told people there's nothing wrong to face a bit of adversity, because a good person and good athletes always try to learn from adversity. And it was a good accomplishment for us to make the playoff. And every year that you make the playoff, it's a great accomplishment for any team in the NHL.
You take that lesson that you learned, you take that humbling moment that you had, and it makes you a much better player in the playoffs. And there's no more surprises for this group. They know what they have to do. They know what it's going to take. And they realize they have got to ramp themselves up to another level.
The 2006-2007 Penguins achieved more than the fans could ever have expected. Sidney Crosby won the Art Ross, the Lester Pearson, and the Hart Memorial Trophies. Yevgeny Malkin was Rookie of the Year. Mark Recchi reached 500 goals. Sergei Gonchar notched his 500th point. And Marc-Andre Fleury recorded 40 wins. Jordan Staal, a Calder Trophy finalist, was named to the All-Rookie team and led the league with 9 shorthanded goals. All in all, it was a remarkable season.
Well, storybook is really what comes to mind for me. Again, I mean, you can talk about potential and you can talk about promise and you can talk about disappointment, but when it all comes together the way it came together for the Penguins, it was almost a storybook season in so many ways. The breadth of what they accomplished in one season is pretty impressive, and you can't really look at that until you remember where they were, and having missed the playoffs every season since 2001. And then to come up with the 4th greatest turnaround in National Hockey League history, and to have it all come together and have these guys who are promising players show that they're more than promising players. They're guys who are ready right now to deliver in the National Hockey League, and to see the role players come up and embrace what the coach asked them to do, and for the Penguins to not only go from being a 29th place team to getting in the playoffs, but hey, the last week of the season, the Penguins were still chasing a division title. And there were people who said, this team can go a long way in the playoffs. That is a huge leap to go from where the Penguins were at the end of the 05-06 season to this. So the Penguins, it all came together so nicely for the Penguins in this season. Really, there was a storybook feel to what happened to them, given the backdrop of the franchise's future being in doubt, right up until the final months of the season.
I think they're a tremendous group of kids. I think the hockey part of it is fantastic. I think a lot of good things are coming the Penguins' way. I think Ray Shero is a very astute young guy, one who has built a pretty good system himself. He's put some key people in positions that I think that they needed to address and work with. Those are the strong points that I think Penguin fans should really be pleased with.
You know what, I'm proud about where we were and where we're going. And it's the chemistry regarding the wins and loss, starting with players, starting with support staff and coaching and management and all the people's working around the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's a great chemistry, and this is what I'm proud to be part of that group, and eventually we'll win the Stanley Cup.